Hello, fellow Shakespeareans! It's time for episode 3 of SONGspeare 2020, Love's Labour's Lost. Oh my god, it's Love's Labour's Lost! Now, getting right into it, Love's Labour's Lost has two major songs right at the end of the play. They are for spring and winter, sung by, well, it's kind of debated who exactly would sing the song. Different productions do different things, but Ver and Heims, or spring and winter. So there's this sort of meditation at the end of the play on those two seasons. What does it have to do with the plot of the play? I'll leave that up to the scholars to decide. But those two songs have inspired quite a lot of settings by different composers over the years. Now, for those of you who like to know if there are historical precedents for those songs, there are two settings of that song in the Duffin Shakespeare Songs album, which catalogs a lot of the historic music that is either known to have been used in Shakespeare's day or existed in Shakespeare's day and might have been used in those productions. They have the same melody that they sing both texts to. So if you want to check that out, I believe those recordings are on YouTube. I'll throw in links somewhere around here if I can find them. For this episode, I'm going to try a different format where I talk about each piece and then we go into that piece. We hear the piece after I talk about it. But as usual, I will put time tags in the video description below. Now, so far in Shakespeare 2020, you may have noticed that the pieces have tended more toward later 19th century onward into modern music. That hasn't been intentional. There are actually a lot of classical and Baroque... Oh no. Oh, no. 18th century British composer Thomas Arne?
Verily. And I would like to know why you feel you can ignore the wonderful Shakespearean settings by me and others in my day.
Well, Dr. Arne, I was just talking about that. And I love performing early music. I am an early music fan, but people tend to just sort of gravitate toward romantic era song, and after that, I mean, that's kind of when the art song came into being what we consider art song to be.
Poppycock! So you intend to banish the music of dozens of composers simply because it sounds too old?
Well, there aren't that many. Okay, I'll tell you what. I will continue to consider all the options for every episode, and if something from an earlier era seems like a really good, solid choice, I will record that, or I will send people to recordings. How's that?
I would hardly call that satisfactory, but what can I do, having been dead for over 2 centuries?
You're right, it's not even clear what this segment is. Like, are you in the room with me? What physical space are you occupying?
Tush! I should merely like to remind you that a great deal of music was inspired by Shakespeare in my century, and on the sceptred isle of his people.
Well, you're right, Dr. Arne. I will try to keep that in mind.
Good.
Well, there you have it. You know, Thomas Arne actually did both of the songs in Love's Labour's Lost. I didn't choose to record them, but they are pretty popular and other people have recorded them. So here are links to 2 of Thomas Arne's settings. Now, on to the music that I did choose. This might just be my personality, but I wound up with 3 settings of the winter text and only 1 setting of the spring text. Oops. The setting that I chose to record of When Daisies Pied is another one by Mervyn Horder from his 7 Shakespeare songs. I kind of think that we'll hear maybe all of them by the time this project is done. It could happen, who knows.
When daisies pied and violets blew, and lady smocks of silver white, and cuckoo birds of yellow hue, do paint the meadows with delight. The cuckoo then on every tree mocks married men, for thus sings he. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Oh, what a fear! Oh, what a fear! Unpleasing to a married ear. when shepherds pipe on oaten straws, and merry larks are ploughmen's clocks, when turtles tread and rooks and daws, and maidens bleach their summer smocks. The cuckoo bird on every tree mocks married men, for thus sings he. Cuckoo, 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 oh, what a fear, oh, what a fear, unpleasing to a married ear.
For the settings of When Icicles Hang by the Wall, I actually have two guests. Yay! Yay collaboration. Cindy Lindeen-Martin came back to accompany me on Arthur Foote's setting of that text. Really, really dramatic and sort of, in a word, it's pretty extra. Winter as, you know, the thing that comes in and freezes the ground and kills everything. That's kind of the winter I get from his setting.
When icicles hang by the wall, and Dick the shepherd blows his nail, and Tom bears logs into the hall, and milk comes frozen home in pail. When blood is nipped and ways be foul, then nightly sings the staring owl. While greasy John doth kill the pot. When all aloud the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns the parson's saw, and birds it brooding in the snow, and Marion's nose is red and raw. When roasted crabs hiss in the bowl, then nightly sings the staring owl. To it, to a merry note, while greasy John doth kill the pot, while greasy John doth kill the pot.
The second setting of When Icicles Hang by the Wall is by Hubert Parry, who is also quickly becoming one of my go-to composers for this project. His settings are all very sort of late 1800s British sound, which is just a world I like for Shakespeare, I guess. It's a lot gentler than the Arthur Foote piece. It's a more cozy version of Winter. There's a minor section in the middle that has the sort of rougher edged, menacing version of Winter, of the cold version of Winter, but it's a little bit more kind of that indoors, fire burning, feet up version.
When icicles hang by the wall, and Dick the shepherd blows his nail, and Tom bears logs into the hall, and milk comes frozen home in a pail. When blood is nipped and ways be foul, then nightly sings the staring owl. To a merry note, while greasy John doth keel the pot. When all around the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns the parson's song, and birds sit brooding in the snow, and Marian's nose looks red and raw, and roasted crabs hiss in the bowl. Then nightly sings the staring owl. A merry note, while greasy John doth keel the pot.
And last, and absolutely not least, maybe last and even the best since you get a break from me and my face, I am happy to be able to feature one of my friends from college who recorded she might have recorded all of them, I don't actually know, two of the Dominick Argento Six Elizabethan Songs, two of which are by Shakespeare. One of which is in Love's Labour's Lost, When Icicles Hang by the Wall. It's called Winter in that song cycle. Camille and I actually wound up singing together a lot in college. We were sort of cast as Gilbert and Sullivan-esque tenor and soprano lovers once or twice.
My sweetheart,
In another really cool piece by a composer at our school that we premiered, she got to kill me because I was stalking her by hitting me in the face with an inflatable donkey. You know, the ties that bind. So very, very grateful thanks to Camille Jasensky and Sam Martin for giving this fantastic rendition of a really great piece, especially for doing it in a way that people didn't have to listen to me sing it, because it would not have been as good. Trust me.
When icicles hang by the wall, and Dick the shepherd blows his knell, and Tom bears loaves into the hall, and milk is frozen home in pail. When blood is nipped, and ways be found, the night they sings a starry note. To wit, to
So, there you have it. A little bit of everything. A little bit of 20th century, a little bit of 19th century. Really, it's not a little bit of everything, it's just the 19th and 20th century. Sorry, older composers, but you're all dead, so... If you're following along in the Shakespeare 2020 reading project, we're coming up to a little bit of a musical break. So during that time, I might return to Hamlet, I might return to the sonnets, I might return to Twelfth Night. Anybody's guess of what will be in the next episode. We could hear some of Ophelia's songs from Hamlet. She goes crazy. She just loses it, and composers like that. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't give a hand to Joan. She's cooling that pot, she's keeling it, cooling it, that's what that means. I don't know why she's greasy, but stay greasy, Joan. Work it. Do I look at the camera? Do I look over here? Do I look at my face, the camera, my face, the camera? Stop looking at your face!